and make a change in our country, in Africa, and just thrive as individuals, as family members, as professionals. I would love to see that. So please do not ignore that vexing of your soul or that joy in your heart. And whatever your dream, just pursue it. Because you never know, people will come along, buy into that dream, walk with you, guide you, and even counsel you in terms of how to run your dream. And I'm sure all of us here have dreams. So please pursue that dream. And as you go along, please carry people along. Because we cannot lead change on our own. If I were to be on my own, like I remember many years ago, I was burning out, left, right, and center, getting sick, moving from hospital to hospital, pharmacy to pharmacy, because I'm trying to treat something I thought it was an ailment. So it wasn't an ailment, it was burnout, it was fatigue, till the board taught me about the power of a team. And then team members came on board and we started working together. We trusted each other, gave each other feedback, and supported each other to grow. So don't walk alone, walk with people. Walk with people, it makes a difference. I can say so much, but ladies and gentlemen, please to invite our board chair, Dr. Katindi CV. Dr. Katindi is the first person to author the Youth Fact book. It was launched in 2010. So in Kenya, if you ever tried to look for information, statistics, data about young people, you would never find it. It would be so fragmented. Dr. Katindi put together a team, they did research, went across the country until she formulated the Youth Fact book. You can actually check it out online. It is research that gives you data and factual information about young people from gender, age, all those things. She authored that. And she's continued to do a lot of work, not just in Kenya, but on the continent at large. She's so passionate about young people. She's a futurist. And so, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our board chair, Dr. Katindi.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, the chief guest, although she has left, Ms. Zainab Bangura, and CAS, Nadia Abdallah, CAS Youth Affairs, and all invited guests. I really welcome you and thank you for coming to this meeting and to launch our 10-year strategic plan. As you've been told, my name is Katindi CV. I consider myself an Afrofuturist, but that's as my personal capacity. But today I stand here as the chair of the board, and just to acknowledge the other board members, Mohammed and Larry Liza. I think those are the only ones I saw. And we are really privileged to have taken over this year after the transition from ELF. So I just want to remind us of our theme today, which is the role of youth in sustainable development. And I think when we think about sustainable development, we always think about climate change and related issues, right? But one of the other definitions of sustainable development, trust me as a researcher to look this up, is defined as meeting the needs of the present generation without, sustainable development is meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own need. And I think that's important because when we think about young people, one of the things that, as a youth researcher, that has been very interesting is a story that I think one of the most impactful stories I ever had from a young person as I was doing my research, and this was in northern Kenya. And these young people in this meeting started arguing. And they were asking themselves, they were speaking in Kisomali, and they were asking themselves, should we tell her what we are saying? Eventually they opened up and they said, we are arguing whether we should tell you who is Al-Shabaab in the room. So you can imagine the shock on my face as they argued, and I'm thinking, I'm not sure, I really want to know. But anyway, they began saying, okay, so they lifted up their hands and they said, we want to ask you, how do you know someone is a Kenyan? Because, of course, as a researcher, you have all this, lingo and all these book definitions of young people and what they go through. And so I'll ask you today, how do you know that a young or someone is a Kenyan? If the police arrest you today and you don't have your ID, how else do they know you're Kenyan? Your forehead. Okay, that's a new one. All right, what about the forehead? It's more protruding compared to other Africans. Okay, that's a new one. I'll add that to my bag of definitions. Anything else? There's a BCG vaccination, and there's also what? The texture of your hair. So if you're Cushitic, which is what many Somalis are, you don't have those two. Why? Because chances are that you were born by a traditional birth attendant, or your family was shifting from one place to another looking for pasture. So you may not have gotten the vaccination, but also because your hair is not that hard. And so one of the things I learned that day is that for you or rather that young person belonging to that community is constantly justifying themselves and constantly defending their own identity. And so that young person asked me, so why do you think we join Al-Shabaab? And they said, Al-Shabaab gives us identity. It is the one organization that when we are rejected as Kenyans, we feel welcome. Number two, it is the only organization that has, because if you don't have a Kenyan ID, you pretty don't have access to anything. It is the one organization that has allowed me to actually be able to have a mission in life or to have a cause in life. Number three, they said to me that it is the one organization that gives me camaraderie. Camaraderie meaning I have brothers and sisters that will die for me. And the last one is that when I die, I have a what? A promise, right? And so they said to me, young people, that is what young people need for them to feel fulfilled in their lives. And so anyway, I continued with my research after that, but that really disturbed my mind. And some of the statistics I came across in my work were that across Africa, 60% of young people, the biggest failure they have is the fear of failure and the fear of poverty. 30% of young Kenyans are disillusioned, 30% are disgruntled, 20% are disenfranchised. That means opportunities that you bring my way. And so one of the things I really am so proud of ELF about, and I think as a board we are, is to change this narrative. And so that we got into the business of offering what is called value-based leadership. And in other words, what we are saying is that we are offering space, we are offering audience, we are offering voice, and we are offering influence so that young people can get all those things. So that, as long as they are marginalized, as long as, they cannot think about the future because they live from hand to mouth, or as long as they are disillusioned, disgruntled, and disenfranchised, that means they cannot be able to think about the future, and that means they cannot belong to the future. Do you understand what I mean? And ELF then in the next 10 years is saying we want to be able to democratize the future. Democratize the future so that young people have the ability to feel like they belong to the future. I think the other thing that we are proud of and in this 10 years we are looking forward to is the fact that knowing that sustainable development cannot happen if systems of injustice persist. And if we continue having an extractive development model, whereby we are eating into the future of what other people can depend on. And so because of that, ELF in this next 10 years is looking to continue decolonizing the future by contributing to the dislodging of these oppressive narratives and enabling young people then to have justice and to be able to have the freedom to belong. But lastly, we are saying that as an ELF board, we are really looking forward for the next 10 years. I don't think I'll be chair 10 years. As an advocate of good governance, I'm hoping to transition in at least 3 or 5 years, right? But we are saying that ELF wants to continue building dignified futures for young people. And we want to afford young people the biggest opportunity, and that is the dignity to dream. And so, going back to our definition of, meeting or rather sustainable development being meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs, we are saying that it is our way of building identity. It is our way of giving young people a mission or a cause to live for. It is our way of building camaraderie, and it is our way of giving young people a promise. And so I hope you guys will support, whether you're in the funding space, whether you are the alumni, whether you are.
Thank you so much. So